So I think you just have to figure out how to be relatable to the leadership. It doesn't have to be a huge presence that you make. You just have to make sure that you're communicating in a way that they can see you and to relate to you and give you the support that you need.
Today, we're talking about why marketing ops professionals need to stop waiting to be recognized and start learning to speak the language of business. My guest today has over 2 decades of experience building enterprise-grade marketing ecosystems, from healthcare at Memorial Sloan Kettering to financial services at CIT Bank, to leading a global team of 18 at international law firm Goodwin. Now she's a fractional marketing technology executive, helping organizations that lack dedicated MOps leadership unlock their growth potential. She has a pretty clear message for every MOps professional who feels unsung and underappreciated. The one who gets recognized is the one who's loudest and most impactful. And it's your job to become that person. Welcome, Danielle Balestra.
Thank you, Odd. That's a great introduction. Really honored with that one.
Danielle, you spent 20 years building marketing operations inside billion-dollar organizations, and now you're gone fractional. What made you take that step, and what's different about how you create impact when you're not embedded in one company full-time?
So I am going to share that for a short period of time, about 10 years ago, I did do consulting for specifically the Marketo system. It was not purchased yet at that time by Adobe. And in that time period, it was a different time in my household. I had very young children, and just the fear of living contract to contract made me run back in-house. And that's when I went into MSK. But at this time, I found that I was dealing with a lot of being overwhelmed. I felt very burnt out. The internal politics are very challenging at organizations, especially when they're under a lot of stress like they are today. And I thought I had just an abundant amount of knowledge and information to share with other organizations. So my decision was to go back out fractionally and to help organizations understand how to get more value out of the investments they're making on their marketing technology, as well as leveling up their junior team members. There are a lot of coaches out in the marketplace, and there's a lot of marketing technologists out in the place. I wanted to sort of help, because when you're thinking about digital transformation, it is about people, processes, and the technology. So I didn't want to sort of put myself in just that last technology bucket, nor did I want to just put myself in the people bucket. I wanted to sort of cut the chasm across and help companies actually create digital transformation.
When you walk into a new organization, what's the first thing you look at to understand where they really are?
It's a lot of curiosity. I'm not going to come with thinking what they should be doing. It's really about what's happening. Is there a perception issue? Is it a technology issue? Is it truly a problem with knowledge by the teams? Do they need to be leveled up? So there's a lot of discovery. There's a good assessment that has to happen. And there's going to be a couple people in that room. It should be the marketing leadership. It should be the teams that are actually executing on the software, as well as the IT team and potentially the sales team, depending on which technology they're looking at. If it's impacting this pipeline, is it impacting sales financial pieces at the end, or reporting? And based on those conversations and information, that's when we find where really the unlock is needed.
You talk about building frameworks that endure leadership transitions and market downturns. What makes an operational framework actually stick after you leave?
Hopefully, I did a really good job in training and understanding. So there needs to be a moment where the communication lands. So if you think about people, we have different types of listening. So if you look at, like, let's say DISC, I don't know if you know DISC assessments. But there's all these
Yeah.
personality tools out there that actually help understand who you're talking to, how they pick up information, sort of where their sort of preferences are in their communication style. So my focus is to make sure they actually hear and learn the information. So pulling from management tools like the DISC assessment, is this person a direct person? Is this an empath? Is this a thinker? They're looking greenfield. How can I then communicate to them this information? So while I think it's always fun when you talk about analytics, right? So you have a chart that says, here's how things are going. And you can have 5 people around the table and they'll look at those charts and they'll have different feedback about what it says, which to me is wild because I'm like, these are data points. How could you have different observation of the data points? But it comes back to the way they're interpreting the information. So if I'm successful, I'm able to then communicate to that end user or the person that's supposed to be receiving it so that in the future that made sense to them and they can now have hopefully picked up and learned something from me and bring it forward with their organization or wherever they go next.
Interesting. What's the most common, call it aha moment for a company that's never had dedicated marketing operations leadership?
I think the biggest challenge is most companies know it's supposed to happen. We're supposed to have this technology that helps us understand the impact of our marketing. I think the greatest gap we're trying to cover is the gap between people who speak in data and then people who speak not data. And marketing ops sits in the land of the not data speakers. So most CMOs come from like a communications or a branding background. And here you come, the marketing ops team, and you're executing and giving analytics. There is a big moment of directionality of the data and trying to communicate that. That is the hardest, I think, challenge we've all been faced, and that we're all trying to figure out how to make something that's binary, ones and zeros type of thing, to somebody who doesn't think like that. So
Mm,
trying to find out and learn, it actually becomes a project of being curious and learning more about the CMO, the leadership, what their primary challenges are, and then addressing those challenges. Sometimes I like to share that like they might just say, I ticked a box, I got the marketing ops team. That might just actually be enough for them. Or I just need to execute this one thing, or we need to stand up attribution. There's more to it
mm,
for us inside the ops space. And I believe all of us have deep integrity about data, getting the right message to the right person at the right time, not abusing trust of our customers because we're delivering messages directly to them. We're leveraging personalization. So I think that's where our two differences in what our priorities are, we need to realign. And as a marketing ops leader, we need to better understand what the priority is from the marketing leadership and then figure out how to then express our greater concerns about the potential abuse of the systems that we have and the potential bad experiences we don't want to have with our customers. So it is really becoming more on a personal level, trying to figure out what are their priorities, what are their challenges, what are they most focused and stressed about. Let's not add our things to it, but like let's bring them along on the journey, address and hopefully remove those stressors for them for what we're supposed to be doing, but then hopefully educate them and make sure they understand like what we should be potentially doing a little bit differently to really stand out in the marketplace.
yeah. It's kind of like you need to find a way to translate the ones and zeros into a language that like the management understands, and kind of making them curious on how can we improve stuff.
I mean,
Um,
it comes down to like talking
yeah.
to them, be like, did you have a bad experience with ever a consumer product? Did
Hmm.
they do anything creepy? We don't want to do that, right? Like, we can do that, but do we want to do that? How did you feel about that? That's like sort of where you can get down to that. They go through these experiences themselves and they can share what they're probably the most targeted for purchasing decisions on all B2B campaigns. So they definitely have to have their own personal experiences, their likes and their dislikes. And hopefully there's an alignment to say, oh, do you remember if that campaign you got from XYZ company? Technically, we're operating similarly. And should we be doing that? Or, by the way, we want to improve reaching certain people a certain way. You know, you had this event coming up, and for some reason, we just had a poor attendance rate. It's really coming down to we don't have the right information, or we have not spent time making sure our customer data information is up to date, and we need to put a little energy into that in order to have better attendance at the future event. So somehow figuring out a way to show what's their concern back to the operational efficiency that we're trying to drive in our ops teams.
You said it's the MOps team's job to learn to speak business. That the things they're most frustrated with, like data quality and unrealistic expectations of software, aren't universally understood by leadership. What does speaking business actually look like in practice?
So I see a lot of marketing ops teams operating inside a silo where all they're focusing on is their pipeline, or they're just trying to improve deliverability or the data quality in their marketing automation platform. While yes, this is what you're focusing on day to day, I don't know how much impact that has to the end goal, which is revenue for the company. What I try and tell people is to take a step back and come with, again, curiosity. Try and learn about what you're doing and how it actually impacts business, because you are a very smart person. I find every marketing ops person is really, really smart. We love solving problems. We are very curious people. So the whole thought is you're executing this one little piece of this system, and you need to figure out how to make it more impactful. So I think we all want to keep our jobs. We don't want to see our companies go through downturns. We don't want to have forced layoffs. So, like, how could we do that? How could we help? So, understanding, like, okay, so I did this execution piece of a nurture campaign or a lead scoring. I should be talking to the sales team to see how that worked out. Were these leads the right people? Is there too many, or is not enough? Who is actually converting to actually purchase our product or service? What do we have information on the other end about why? Like, what messages were relevant? Was there different messaging for different decision makers? Was it the same decision makers all the time, or is there other things that are impacting someone's ability to purchase? Could it be economical? Could it be whatever it might be? And that's the questions we should be having, because then you're getting feedback from the sales team, which is your people right next to you, to say, okay, my nurture campaign needs work. And I need to talk to my demand gen team about some adjustments we need to make about potentially messaging. Or my project's working great, but there needs to be a little bit more. Or we didn't score well. I need to think about that. And I wouldn't only look at it as like, I have to solve it alone. I would start talking to the community, find out what other people are using. There's more and more tools out there that might actually do a better job with scoring, or that might have better intention indicators coming in from different vendors. So that's where, if you learn the full business and you really understand what you're doing and what's happening next to you and on either side, how you can have more impact. And you want to, I think what we all want to do is have something with purpose. Like, we want to be executing with purpose. So the whole idea is, by knowing the business, by understanding it, eventually you should be talking to finance. You should find out how the company's revenue streams are, what's the EBITDA, which I think everyone hears about EBITDA.
Mm.
So find out more, learn, ask questions, get closer to your IT counterparts. When I hear people say like they don't like IT, to me, I'm like boggled, because I'm like, they are our counterpart. Like, they are letting us maintain and manage these systems. But if their future is to build data lakes and they're going to own that and there's going to be a data team, we should be all on board on that. Like we might have been the people in the front trying to solve this with our siloed systems. But if they're now getting the importance of it and why it's going to help empower their internal AI initiatives or whatever it might be, we should be right there. We should be their biggest cheerleaders and we should be sharing what we know about the data sources we manage. In most cases, I'm hearing where they are standing up data lakes, the marketing ops teams are the voice of the marketing data and they give the context to the data teams. And we still maintain and have to keep our data clean in our marketing automation space. But we now have data in a collective. So now we could see a little bit more. And actually, where we had reporting siloed, or if you had a quarterly business review report that just looks at just your little silo, this now centralized data lake where data reports are coming across data systems, so finance, sales, marketing, could be your enterprise resourcing systems. This gives a whole new story. And you need to now start learning what that story is. So the more you have business understanding, the better you could be. I'm not saying everyone has to go back to college and go get a business degree, but have curiosity and start asking questions and learning from your peers in other departments.
The way I've been kind of thinking about learning or learning to speak business is actually whoever you're talking to, you go out and you tell them, okay, so this is what I do, or this is what something I have done, and this is why it's important for you. Because if you reach through to them with the importance for their person or their responsibilities or their function within the company, they will pay attention. They will be interested. So I think it doesn't matter if you go to sales, IT, product, or marketing management, or even above that. If you're able to tell them what's in it for them, or why is what you do important to them, why was the changes that was done here and there, and through your systems, why does that matter to the CMO, to the CEO, to the sales leader, IT CDO, so basically if you're able to talk like they do and being able to prove value for them through what you do, you will kind of connect with them and have much more support than you would have without doing that.
Unfortunately, humans were naturally self-centered. So,
Yeah,
exactly right. If you're able to get to what they're most concerned about, they will take interest.
yeah. Can you give an example of a MOPS problem that nobody cared about until it was framed in a business language?
It has to be the data right now. I mean, it's wild how the data focus. I feel we've been screaming about this for 10 years straight because you can't automate on bad data, nor can you personalize on
Who
bad
knew?
data. And now all of a sudden everyone's like, but wait, can't we just plug the AI in and get this all operational?
Yeah,
And now everyone's like,
uh,
oh, we need to
that's a hoax.
centralize our data. We need to clean our data. We need to have a gold standard data. Holy cow. What a flip on the narrative. It's so exciting.
Yeah, that's a really good example because it's from the beginning of time. I think that the same expression has been valid, like shit in, shit out. Yeah, now you can actually get a lot more and faster shit out with AI. Yeah, let's automate the shit. I'm like, okay, yeah, but yeah, it's I think it as soon as you add AI to something these days, people get interested. I think the trick then is to get them interested by adding AI to it, but then actually make them understand that, okay, so we can't just jump over this data obstacle and go to the AI. You need to work with the equality before you hook the AI up to the data, because otherwise, it will be really bad really soon.
It was interesting. I spoke to somebody recently and they were talking about how they're trying to take on the data piece. And his comment was like, it's so unsexy that this is going to take 18 months to solve in order to get to the other end to actually use the AI. And I'm like, hey man, we've been sitting on this problem for decades. So yeah, it's going to take a minute before you can potentially unleash this stuff on it. So I think the providers that are trying to get people to do this right are forcing their customers to slow down on execution on AI and to address the data problem, which again, I think is the exciting thing to be like, finally.
Yeah, to be able to kind of make some use out of, if you have a really messy data with silos and everything, is it possible that we can optimize or clean just some parts of the data? Like if you have a goal to do this, okay, you need these 5 data points. They need to be clean as, you need to fix those in your database, or in your tools, and then you can start automating that and start seeing results, not after 18 months like you said, but maybe sooner. Have you experienced kind of not drip campaign AI, but kind of doing it step by step?
Data cleanup.
Yeah.
So I've approached this a couple different ways. I actually prefer to have data scientists to help me with doing fuzzy logic cleanup. So I also, now that we're unlocking data lakes, prefer to potentially see downstream systems to see what additional data our finance team is collecting when they're billing the people and processing them with their W-9s or whatever tax documents they need to have on file, because that actually might be great first party data about the type of company that's we're engaging with. So looking first at the internal data systems across the company to see if we can actually fill in some blank spots we have on the prospecting and marketing data. Then I would go out to third parties to see where I can find additional information. Data privacy laws has definitely decreased the reliability of a customer data. And we will always find challenges on annual revenue or number of employee counts because there's no true data filed anywhere for private or sometimes public companies. So some of them are more directional. I think we need to just be aware of that and that things are changing and they're not always going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be close enough for hopefully targeting in the future. I also think it's okay to keep adding questions as you progress somebody down the funnel to find out more information. So I came from old school media for a while where we used to have 3 pages of questions for our subscribers so we could better position them to our advertisers. I mean, it was true. I mean, if you ever subscribed to a magazine back in the early 2010s, that's what you dealt with when you went to a forum. It was very, very long. Now it's much more simplified and it's like 1 to 2 questions for you to onboard. And then they start taking assumption based on like how your behaviors are. I still think we need both. I think you need to ask pointedly, what are you interested in learning about? And just across the experience, collect more. So maybe the first time it's just the email, first name, last name, company, but maybe engagement 3 or 4, you could find out like, hey, if we have education or training programs, what type of programs would you like to hear from us about and have like a selection? Or, hey, could you further identify your company, your headquarter location? I don't think it's I think the more somebody engages with you and the more they want information from you, I think it's okay. Like, I think I would give more information as I continue down the pipeline and engage with the customer vendor.
Yeah, I totally agree because it's it's uh, it's a matter of getting to know somebody, and how do you prefer to get to know new people? Like them giving you say your name. Hi, I'm Danielle, and yeah, here's a 4-page survey. Can you just fill in all the everything here so we can move on? It doesn't work like that. You say hi, and you know, say your name and some small talk, but nothing nothing very important maybe. And then you next time you meet, okay, then you uh, get to know each other a little bit more. Sometimes you say hi 20 times. The 21st meetings, you just get to hi and nothing else. So it's doing the collecting the data as you describe now compared to subscribing for those magazines. It's more humane with all the tech actually now than it was back then. If you ask me, it's kind of we have evolved in the way we uh, gather information when people sign up for stuff because well, we have learned that strangely enough, people don't want to, fill out long forms and like at the first encounter, they just want to check things out. And so, yeah, about being visible and getting recognized. I know you have a strong opinion that the MOPS professional who gets recognized is the one who's loudest and most impactful. But a lot of people in this role are heads down, tactical, and don't naturally seek that spotlight. How do they change that without feeling like they're bragging, for example?
Some of the best people I know are more quiet, and I find that when they speak, it's impactful. So you don't need to say a lot of words. I'm more extroverted. I'm going to speak a lot. I enjoy attending and joining podcasts. I love putting my voice in the market. But some people I know really, when they say that one sentence, and if you're a leader, you know that person, that observation is impactful. It's bigger than a 30-minute podcast. That one sentence is very big statement. And as a leader, you need to sit back and think about that and not just assume, like, well, they don't really speak that much. I also think it needs to be constructive. So, this role, as you said, is a very heads down, sometimes tactical role. And we feel we're being undercompensated or we're not getting recognized with the support we need to grow, to be promoted. So I do think it's a moment that you have to take time out. And if you are a learner, I would find out how to then negotiate and to share and to make what you're experiencing relatable for somebody who doesn't do what you do. So it is a little bit of a science about how to communicate that information without coming off as defensive and complaining. I feel like sometimes a lot of us end up falling into that I'm the one marketer, I'm the one ops team, and it's unrealistic for me to achieve all this stuff. That's not what anyone wants to hear. And if you were in charge of that person, how would you feel about that? You'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. So I think you just have to figure out how to be relatable to the leadership. It doesn't have to be a huge presence that you make. You just have to make sure that you're communicating in a way that they can see you and to relate to you and give you the support that you need.
Yeah, it's being impactful doesn't have to be actually doesn't have to be how you speak. It's like uh, for me, it has been more of a way of like show what I can through my work.
A lot of
But
us do that, yeah.
yeah, but the problem that I have seen then sometimes is that though I have shown it through the work, you have others talking so loud and so, takes up so much space and get all the attention, and then they that is that is making everybody like, oh, this is so good, oh, so great. And what like the marketing ops has done, or that side of it, kind of sometimes it gets put in the backseat, and it's not that important, shoved into the corner. It's because yeah, I think that is a real challenge for many, because they don't know how to actually make their work stand out, and they're not able to stand out themselves with like loud voice and take the whole room. And because they're let's face it, most of us are kind of introverts. When we in this space, we like to do our work from day to day, and see the progress, and just make make things work better. But others may not see that as, yeah, what have you done lately? It's we don't see any improvements, or you're just there in front of your screen.
So I think it depends on the role. So if you're a leader of the department, this is a part of your job. You're no longer hands on keyboard. You might still be a little bit, but your biggest job is to advocate for the people that you're representing. And you need to be as loud as your peers in social media, in demand, in a field event marketing. Like, you need to let the leadership know this is a great team. They're very impactful. You have to tell a narrative. Now, if you're a smaller organization and you're a one-party team, you do have to take a moment, and luckily there's a lot of great tools now. Like Claude could definitely give you some cool information, and you could probably put in that you need to talk to your leadership. This is what you did. How do you make this sound sexier than you're normally doing? Like, if you feel uncomfortable with that, like, you can leverage Claude or ChatGPT to help you put that narrative together, put a couple slides together, and you're gonna have to take that energy for just one day and put it in front of that leader. Maybe it'll happen a couple times the month, but just know that you're gonna have to put your emotional space around that execution and re-energize after that communication. But if you really want people to see, it's loud in the leadership space. It's very loud. You have peers that are like, my team's the best. They should be getting the promotions. They should be getting the money. You need to be loud for your team. That's just it. And yes, I also sit in the world of, let me prove it to you. I'm going to execute, and you're going to see the results, because data doesn't lie. But unfortunately, the reality of the room that you're standing in is a lot of people are just sharing narratives, and it's not about the tactical outputs. It's about the actual words being spoken in a room. So that, I think, as leaders, you need to be aware of that. And you have to have that conversation as contributors in small teams. If you want that promotion or you want that recognition, you got to set some time aside and leverage coaches, or you could leverage ChatGPT or Claude to just guide you on how to say this. And there probably should be like a directory of like prompts to like help people with this. Somebody should put me like, how do I present this when I don't normally do this type of thing? So that you can sort of have that good conversation. But it is something that will be important for development and growth of yourself and for promotions. It's just, this is unfortunately the reality, at least in the US, for how you climb the corporate ladder.
Danielle, before we wrap up, if someone's listening to this right now or watching, and they recognize themselves, they're the one fixing everything behind the scenes, frustrated that nobody gets what they do, maybe thinking about going out on their own someday. What's the one thing they should do differently starting tomorrow?
Going on it on your own is a lot more work than you think, because now you have to prove a value and sell yourself. So I think a good exercise to try and sell internally to leadership and to others to see how you can add additional value. Because when you go to the fractional space or consulting space, you now need to actually get your own clients, create your own marketing, create your own positioning, and you have to do a lot of persuasion for somebody to spend money for you to do this work. It is a very crowded space, the consulting fractional space in marketing, tech, and ops. There's a lot of us out there. And there's agencies you're competing against, as well as, again, independent people who are just doing work one on one. So you need to really show the value when you move to that space. So a good place to start is trying internally to see if you can start getting people on board and to actually bring you in for new projects or expand your responsibility set. Then, when you're ready, you should also be talking to the market, to people that you know, and find out if the service you're providing is a need, as well as the price point for which you want to charge people, either by hour or by a sort of retainer project. And then you can start moving. I would try and get one client before officially moving off on your own, because it's a very, very crowded market today. It's very, very hard to attain business. If I was talking to you back in 2016, I'd say, like, just jump out there and do it, because at the time there was just so much work. Now it's a very hard marketplace. So if you're not confident in your ability to sell yourself, or to show value for yourself, I would take pause and to think through it a little bit more.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Danielle. If people want to connect with you or learn more about what you do, where should they find you?
Start off on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please connect. I'm happy to connect with anybody and to talk about your challenges that you're having, or at least, share my experiences there. I also have a website, daniellebalestra.com. So it's my first name, middle initial M, and then Balestra, Balestra.
I'll leave links to it in the description.
Awesome. Thank you.
Danielle Balestra, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.
This is The Ordinary. I'm Morten. Catch you in the next one.